Hey, hey, hey. Time for another Out of This World story from rSpace. Even the best wives can't fix men who mistake commitment for confinement. Today on rSpace, what's the price for freedom? Husband demanded his freedom. Now he's watching me thrive with his former best friend while he drowns in debt. I've been a frequent visitor here for longer than I can probably count, and in all that time, I probably read hundreds, if not thousands, of stories of wives cheating on their husbands. Throughout all of them, I've always had to reflect on my own behavior and tell myself that I'd never even find myself close to being that kind of wife. I have more traditional values, which I know are sort of going out of fashion these days, but it was just the way I was raised. And when I was old enough, I began to appreciate a traditional family structure on its own merit, not just because I was indoctrinated or something. I am 40 years old and my husband is 42 years old, and I just found out that this man is cheating on me. Genuinely, it crushes me to know that, because I did absolutely everything right as a wife. There isn't a single thing that I can be overly critical of myself on. Sure, some nights I didn't have dinner ready on time, and there were also occasions when we had arguments, but every couple does. I gave him 3 beautiful children, and I think I've been doing an amazing job raising them as a stay-at-home mom. Maybe it's because I don't bring in an income, but he's always maintained that he prefers me to keep the home running smoothly. He has worked as part of a roofing company for a long time, and over the years, his pay has been getting better and better. My husband is sort of an introvert. He doesn't complain about things much, but when he does, I know that I've messed up. Over all these years together, he has had major complaints so few times that I can count them on one hand. We've been married for 17 years, just to make things crystal clear. I found out that he was cheating because he wasn't smart with it. He wasn't smart with it at all, and if I hadn't caught the clues, it would have been entirely my fault. There was a day when he was really trying to get me out of the house. I had done grocery shopping the week before, and we didn't need another run anytime soon, but he kept asking if I'd do the shopping that day. I let him know that there was no shopping to do, but then he asked if I could make him his favorite dish and whether I had everything that was needed for it. I did, so that attempt didn't work either. About half an hour later, my youngest daughter came over asking if we could go to a certain family restaurant that we all love. I let her know that it wasn't in the plans and maybe we could another time, but she said that her dad had said I'd take them there. That part was frustrating because I really didn't want to go anywhere that day, but I assured that he just wanted to have a day alone. So eventually, I went out with the kids and we all went to that family restaurant for a few hours. After that, we went to the mall briefly and then we headed back home. I think all of that must have taken close to 4 hours. When I got back home, the first thing that hit my nose was the scent of perfume, and I was entirely sure that it wasn't a masculine scent. Even if it was, I'd have known that it wasn't my husband's perfume. One of my kids even made a passing comment about how the living room smelled good. I knew that something was wrong. I was certain that someone else had been in the house during that time, and with how hard he was trying to push me out of the house, it seemed all to make sense. The thing was, maybe I'm too trusting, but I felt that after so long being married, there had to be another explanation to things. Maybe he invited an interior decorator or a contractor to check something out, and I was the one jumping to a conclusion. Looking back, I hate how much I tried to make an excuse for him. Later that night, I decided to just ask what was up, but he claimed that I must have been imagining what I smelled because he had been at home by himself the entire time. I believed him in that moment and just let it go. I know, I was stupid. It was a week later when he came back home about an hour later than usual. I tried to hug him and kiss him as he returned, but he only let me hug him for about half the duration he usually would. The smell of perfume on his jacket made it all make sense. It was right at that moment that I realized that he's been cheating on me, and it hurt so badly. Like I said, I've done everything right, and as much as I know that cheating typically has nothing to do with the person being cheated on, I can't help but keep examining my behavior to try and figure out what I must have done wrong to lead to this point. Did I somehow try to be a good stay-at-home wife and mother but fail in some aspects? Our life in the bedroom was fine, my cooking has always been good, and I know I have done a very good job raising our kids. It's hard to understand the part where I might have messed up. I ended up checking his phone, and that was when I saw that he had a chat thread with someone called Melanie. Her picture wasn't there or anything, but the entire theme of the conversation made it very clear that they were sleeping together and that he was lusting over her very intensely. It really made me feel bad seeing my husband talking to another woman in that kind of way. He never spoke to me like that, and it's not because I wouldn't have obliged it. He just never did, and that was another kind of pain. I took pictures of his messages with my phone, and I didn't know what to do after that. But the next morning, I just knew that I couldn't hold it in anymore, so I asked him who Melanie was. I thought I was going to be tough during the whole conversation, but I could barely get that question out without starting to tear up. It hurt so much to realize that after 17 years of marriage, my husband seemed to want someone else a lot more than he wanted me. He seemed surprised that I knew, but he wasn't that shaken by the whole thing, and that hurt more. Before he could answer, I asked him why he was cheating on me. I asked him to tell me what I was doing wrong and why I wasn't enough for him. At that point, I was just crying endlessly. Looking back, it was rather embarrassing. This is the part where he broke me, though. He told me that he needed freedom and that I was keeping that away from him, so he went out and found that freedom for himself. He said it wasn't personal and that I shouldn't consider it to be anything more than physical between them. At that point, I was sobbing. I tried to ask him who she was, but either he didn't hear me through my crying or he simply chose not to answer. That was where the conversation ended, and despite the fact that this was just 3 days ago, it hasn't come up again between us. It feels like there's an elephant in the room, at least for me, and he doesn't seem to have any interest in talking about it. I feel like I need closure, and I'm not going to get it. What do I do? Do I just call things off, or do I force the conversation? I really need to know. Edit. I know a lot of you are going to hate me for this, and I apologize ahead of time. I know it isn't the popular decision to make, but I have decided that I'm going to stay with my husband through this. It's hard, but I hesitate to leave 17 years of marriage behind. I especially don't want to mess things up for our kids. The oldest is 16 and will be out of the house in a few years, but the youngest is 9 and I don't want to screw things up there. That kid will have to live in a broken home. I did, and I hated it so much. I've told myself that I don't want to put any other child through that again. When you read stories here as much as I do, you kind of feel like you know what you'd do in each situation. But I genuinely don't think that's true. You'll never know what you'd do until you're in that spot. I think that's the ultimate truth. I've realized that I don't have the guts to leave my husband after so long and after one affair. I don't want to be the one to break the home apart, and I love him too much to let it go. I'm sorry, because I know this will annoy a lot of you, but I have to be faithful to my feelings. You did everything you thought was right. You built your life around your marriage and your children, and you held up your end of the partnership. But he didn't seem particularly sorry. He didn't beg, didn't panic, didn't even offer you the decency of a real explanation. Honestly, leave. You don't need to stay here. It's just all an illusion of a perfect life. Update 1. I posted a story about a month ago about how I find out that my husband was cheating on me. I'm a traditional wife and I always felt like I was doing everything right until he cheated on me, and he said it was because he wanted his freedom. That part hurt a lot, and I told myself back then that I must have been stifling him to some degree. I still found a way to blame myself about all of it. However, not anymore. I want to thank you all for talking sense into me. A lot of you are very unkind in your approaches, but I'm not even going to hold that against you. A few of you hit me up directly, and one of you in particular, she doesn't want to be named, really stood by me as long as she could. At a point, I realized that I was worth a lot more than I had always told myself I was. I realized that I didn't need to sit through my husband cheating on me and likely feeling emboldened to cheat on me some more because I didn't have the guts to react the way that I should have. I've made the decision in my mind. I'm going to divorce my husband. I hate that my children had to be caught in the crosshairs, but honestly, I blame him for it. He's the one who broke us apart, and it kills me. But I refuse to blame myself anymore. I want him to hurt the same way that I've been hurting. I'm not going to do anything physical to him, but I've completely changed my tune, and I need the closure from getting back at him. Update 2. Good news, ladies and gentlemen. Things are finally over between me and my ex-husband, so I have no issue telling you all that his name is Kevin. I'm just doing that to be petty, to be honest, but yeah, it is over and it is rather bittersweet, though I'm doing my best to focus on the positive aspects of it. I know my story has been a bit of up and down for the people following it. A lot of folks were pretty mad at me after my first post because I said I was going to stick around with the man who I knew was cheating on me. Then I managed to win back at least some goodwill with my second post saying that I had decided to leave him, and now I have finally left him. I hope that I've been able to at least win some people over with the fact that I did the right thing in the end. I haven't been a saint. I knew that I was going to divorce my husband, but I also wanted to hurt him. I wanted to hurt him really bad, and my first instinct was to do it with someone he knew, and someone that he didn't like. And the first person that came to mind was someone called Ben. He and Kevin have been very close friends for a very long time. In fact, it was almost as long as we had been married. But about 2 years ago, they had a very big falling out due to an issue at work. Ben felt like Kevin was at fault for something, but instead of admitting to what he did, Ben sort of took the blame by default and ended up in an uncomfortable position at work. He ended up quitting over it. He tried to get my ex-husband to apologize, but he didn't. The way he told me the story, it had been Ben's fault, so I never felt like there was injustice. I learned all of this very recently. But I reached out to Ben, even though I felt like he was the bad guy in the story. That's how hurt I was, and how much I wanted to hurt Kevin. Ben was surprised to hear from me, but we had been friendly back in those days, so he didn't shrug me off. I'm not proud to admit it, but my goal was to sleep with him. I wanted to fight fire with fire. Ben swatted away my advances, though. I told him that I planned to divorce Kevin and that it was fine, but to him, it wasn't. He said he'd be there once we had split officially. That was a bit of an unofficial push to serve my ex with divorce papers. He laughed when I did and said that there was no way that I was serious. I told him I was, that he could have the freedom he wanted back. He seemed surprised by it. I guess he felt like he wasn't the one with anything to lose, so he signed the papers right there in front of me and then handed them back. We got into the divorce proceedings pretty soon after that, and to be honest, and needless to say, it was messy, especially when it came to custody. He did everything that he could to paint me as a bad mother, but I didn't play dirty like he did, though I made sure that all the evidence I had of his cheating was front and center. In the end, we had to go in front of a judge. I won in terms of custody, getting custody 70% of the time, thanks to the fact that I had been a stay-at-home mom for the children's entire lifetimes, and it would simply be easier for them to be with me most of the time. I also got spousal and child support, which obviously wasn't a surprise. I let him keep the house because there was no way I'd be able to pay off the mortgage myself, and he refused to let us sell and split it. The court awarded me a percentage of the house's value, roughly 20%, and I was able to use that to get an apartment. Anyway, with the divorce process over, I was able to meet up with Ben for the first time in ages. He was as nice as I had remembered him, and with my head clear and the divorce behind me, I actually realized that I wasn't entirely motivated by revenge at that point. I didn't mind getting to know him better, again, and I let him know that as much. He's said we should take it slow though, and we've been doing that, but honestly, I know that I really like him already. Meanwhile, my ex-husband called me drunk one evening and started cursing me out. He said that the money that I was taking from him was making his bills a lot harder to pay, particularly the mortgage. He said that I contributed nothing to his life the entire time we had been married, and now I was making him actually do everything alone. He was pissed off, and it was a little scary because I've never seen or heard him like that before. When he kept rambling, I eventually hung up on him. About a week later, he sent me a message saying that someone saw me with Ben in town, and he asked if it was true. I told him it was, and he flipped out. He had rarely been that expressive during our relationship. I let him know we're just friends for now, but that certainly didn't help. I didn't want it to, after all. He said I did it on purpose, but I lied and said it just kind of happened. Rightfully, he didn't believe that. But I didn't give him the satisfaction of knowing he was right. I let him know that whatever he was feeling was what I felt when he did the same to me, and he didn't reply to that. I've been growing closer and closer to Ben with each day, and even though the custody situation breaks my heart, he's been good with the kids the 2 times he's seen them, with the exception of my oldest, though I'm not surprised by that. The kids are taking the divorce okay for the most part, thankfully. Kevin has asked me if I've started working almost 20 times at this point. I'm looking for work, but it is hard to find a job after being off the market for so long. I might ultimately settle with a retail job, but I want to exhaust my options before then. Life isn't horrible, though. I hate that everything got flipped upside down, but I don't need to be with a cheater any longer, and there's a lot of peace of mind that comes from that. Let him stew in his regret. He wanted freedom? Well, now he's got it. Plus a mortgage, alimony, and stone-cold silence from someone he took for granted. Have you ever stayed in a relationship longer than you should have because you blamed yourself for someone else's behavior? Share your stories with us in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today on rSpace. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. See you soon!